Hello everyone. We are going to study theories of evolution today. There are several theories that have been given and we will be looking into each theory individually. Let us see all of the theories at once. Lamarck's theory of inheritance of acquired characters. This was the first theory which was given by Lamarck and is popularly known as Lamarckism because Lamarck gave this theory. Second theory is Darwin's theory and his theory is known as theory of natural selection. The third theory is mutation theory and this theory was given by Hugo de Vries. And the fourth theory is the most acceptable theory known as modern theory, neo-Darwinism or synthetic theory of evolution, which is a combination of couple of these theories. We have taken the points from all these theories and have combined them into modern theory or neo-Darwinism or synthetic theory of evolution. So we are going to first see the Lamarck's theory. So let us see the first theory. This theory is the theory of inheritance of acquired characters. This was given by Jean-Baptiste de Lamarck in 1809. This was the year when Charles Darwin was born, and so this Lamarck's theory was given quite earlier in 1809. Let us see the postulates of Lamarck's theory. Postulates means the important points that Lamarck gave, all the features that Lamarck gave. The very first point that he discussed was an internal vital force which was generated due to new needs. There are several needs that the body requires, and to fulfill those needs there is certain vital force which is generated internally, due to which we can have a use or disuse of certain organs in the body. I am writing the postulates first and then I will be explaining each point with help of examples. The use or disuse of organs. Then comes the inheritance of acquired characters. And then comes the fourth postulate, the speciation. So let us understand this theory, the postulates of this theory, with the help of an example which Lamarck considered, the giraffe. According to Lamarck, the ancestor of the present day giraffe was not very tall and did not have this long neck, neither the forelimbs were so long. So the ancestor was like a horse or donkey sort of. So this is how the original giraffe was, the ancestor of present day giraffe was. But due to the lack of vegetation on the ground, due to frequent natural disasters and also the striking of comet on the earth, the small plants and the vegetation on the ground was gradually vanishing, and therefore the giraffes had to find the food from the treetop. The good leaves were present at the top of the trees, so they had only an alternative to jump and reach the treetop. In this manner, the giraffe tried to jump and stretch its neck progressively every time, and so we see that this is how the neck of the giraffe became elongated. Now there is a question that usually comes in NEET etc., that if the giraffe is having a long neck, are the number of vertebrae more in the neck region? That means the cervical vertebrae are more, but it isn't so. The answer to this is that the cervical vertebra remains the same, whether be it human beings or be it giraffe, it is the same. So this is the number of vertebra, the constant, but then the length of the vertebra is getting increased each time. So the elongation of the neck is taking place gradually, and these variations that was occurring from generations to generations got accumulated And finally we get this giraffe with a very long neck which can reach the tree top easily, and therefore because this was favorable for the giraffe to get the food, this was inherited in the next generation. According to Lamarck, what was the need? The internal vital force allowed the giraffe to grow its neck and the forelimbs just because there was a need to reach the tree top. When you see the original ancestor, all the four limbs are, that means the forelimbs and the hind limbs are same in length, but due to stretching, the forelimbs of present day giraffe are much more elongated rather than the hind limbs, and also the neck got stretched. So this is how the evolution of giraffe took place. The diagram shows the elongation of neck in giraffe, and this is according to Lamarck. Now here the second postulate comes, the use of the organ. Since the neck and the forelimbs are being used more and more, it is getting evolved. So according to Lamarck, the use of this organ helped in evolving the structure in this manner. And since this acquired character in the giraffe was favorable, this was inherited in the next generation also. So the present day giraffe is the example of speciation. Speciation means the formation of a new species. So just consider this giraffe and this horse looking giraffe. There is a marked difference between the two. So we call the process as speciation, in which the origin of a new species we see, and today's giraffe is this one, which is very different to its ancestral form. Now, there are several points that are in support of Lamarck's theory, and there are several which are against it. So let us see all those features which were in support. We just now talked about and took the example of giraffe. Now there is another example that we can consider of snakes. There are certain snakes like pythons and boas in which the remnant of the pelvic girdle has been found. Now pelvic girdle, also known as the hip girdle, is meant for the attachment of the limbs. The femur actually is fitted into the acetabulum of the pelvic girdle. That means the presence of pelvic girdle shows the presence of the hind limbs. So in pythons and boa, the remnant, that means a little amount, a rudimentary form of the pelvic girdle has been found in pythons and boa, not all the snakes, but then it is present, it is found. This means that the ancestors of these snakes had the limbs, the hind limbs, earlier. So because of their crawling habit and just moving on the vegetation on the ground did not allow them to use the hind limbs, because they were crawling on their ventral side of the body, and for this reason they lost their hind limbs. When we considered the example of giraffe, we studied the use of organ due to which the particular organ got very much evolved, the neck and the forelimbs. But when we are considering the pythons and boas, we are talking about the disuse. So when a particular organism is not using a particular organ, it may gradually become weaker and weaker and may finally be absent from the body. So present day snakes are limbless. However, the remnant of the pelvic girdle shows that they might be having the limbs earlier. So this is all on the basis of the fossils etc. that we get, and we study on the basis of these fossils. So the snakes, the example of snakes also goes in support of Lamarck's theory. Also, when we consider certain aquatic birds like the duck, since the duck's body is heavy, it is not using its wings, it is not flying. It is not a total flightless bird like the ostrich, and even the ostrich's body is very big. Because of their disuse of the wings, the body is getting heavier because the wings cannot actually balance the body that much up in the sky. And also due to the swimming habit, the duck developed the webbed feet. So the webbed feet is only due to the presence because of its habitat in the water. So therefore it was using its feet more for movement rather than the wings. The webbed feet came into existence. So this is again going in support of Lamarck's theory, the aquatic birds and the flightless bird like the ostrich, which has lost its power of flying. So the wings are gradually getting smaller and smaller. Ostrich's wing is not very big, and so all these examples go in support of Lamarck's theory. But if we talk about the criticism, there are many examples that have been given in against Lamarck's theory. Let us see them one by one. The very first criticism was given by a very famous scientist, August Weismann. He is the same scientist who proposed the theory of continuity of germplasm. August Weismann performed certain experiment, and the conclusion actually blew off Lamarck's theory. What Weismann did was he experimented on mice. He took 2 mice and these were adult and had very long tails. Now Weismann had cut the tails. When they got adult, he first measured the length of the tail and then he cut their tails and allowed them to live their normal life. And he found that they were not been easily caught by the cats, because the cats usually keeps its paws on the tail. So this was a favorable thing for the mice, and they lived their life completely, reproduced, and the offsprings were produced with the tail. Now when the offsprings became adult, Weismann measured the length of the tail, thinking the acquired character might have been inherited. The mice should have been without the tail, but now the tail was there. Weismann thought maybe the tail was smaller in size because the organ is gradually getting weaker and smaller. But to his surprise, the length of the tail was the same. The adult's tail was the same in length. So what he did was he had cut the tail again, and he did this for 20 generations. But the mice were born with normal tails in the 21st generation. In each generation, Weismann cut the tail, but the next generation was with the same length of the tail when it got adult. So he concluded that the acquired character is not inherited in the next generation, although it may be useful and it may be life-saving, because it was not easily caught by the cat also, and it could easily go into its hole and live its life easily. The absence of the tail was not hampering any physiological system in the body, but so this was a favorable characteristic. But this acquired characteristic was not in the next generation. That means it was not inherited, and thus he concluded that Lamarck's theory of inheritance of acquired characteristic is wrong. Then after Weismann had blown away Lamarck's theory, there were several other examples that were taken into consideration. For example, if we consider an athlete, he has built a good musculature and his hind limbs are very strong, but when he produces his offsprings, the offsprings have to acquire the character again. The child will not be having the same musculature as the father. So the acquired character by the athlete is not inherited by the offspring. Also, the women pierce their ear and nose for wearing certain ornaments. So this is an acquired character since their childhood. when a child is 2 or 3 years old, in India their ears and nose are usually pierced so that they can wear ornaments. So lifelong they are living with this acquired character, and it causes a bit pain also. So is it so that when these women reproduce, the young ones also have the pierced holes in their ears and nose? No. These children, the girls which are born after the piercing of the ears and nose, have to get their nose and ears pierced again, and so that this acquired character is not inherited. Chinese women have this myth that if they have small feet, they are considered beautiful. So when they are really at their childhood stage, they are allowed to wear the wooden shoes so that their feet does not grow very big. So right from their childhood they start wearing wooden shoes, because it's a mark of beauty if their feet is small. So when these Chinese women give birth to the girls do not have big feet. No, they have to wear the wooden shoes again so that their feet does not grow much. So these acquired characters in their lifetime is not inherited. These are the examples that we see under the criticism of Lamarck's theory. Also, when we talk about the internal force and the new need, if there is a very strong desire to fly in a human being, this will not generate a pair of wings in his body. So the internal force is not because there is a need to fly or there is a desire to fly. And this is definitely true that use and disuse of organs definitely helps in evolving a certain organ or in making a particular organ weak, but the inheritance of these characters is not actually done in the next generation. All the postulates that we discussed in the video, the support and the criticism that we discussed, were given or published in a book called as Philosophic Zoologic. This was published by Lamarck, and the title of the book was Philosophic Zoologic, in which all the postulates, the support and the criticism, everything was given. So this is all about Lamarck's theory, and in my next video I'll be dealing with Darwin's theory of natural selection. If you have any doubts, you may ask me in the comment section, and kindly see the questions given in the description box. Thank you.